Okay, we're going to review coordinate plane. Start out with some vocabulary. You've probably heard the word coordinate plane, but I want to make sure I get you some definitions for these words that should be familiar. The coordinate plane is the plane containing the x-axis and y-axis. Basically the grid with the x-axis marked and the y-axis marked. Would look like this. Okay, so here's an example of a coordinate plane. I have my grid here. I have a number line left and right. This left and right number line is our x-axis. We also have a number line vertically, up and down. That's our y-axis. So our x-axis moves horizontally, the y-axis vertically. On the coordinate plane, you plot points. And those points can be named using coordinates. So coordinates are a pair of numbers that describe the position of a point on the coordinate plane. It's written as an ordered pair x, y. So it gives you directions. If you ever heard in a movie, what are your coordinates? And then somebody gives information about where they're located. So it's like a location. So where's the point located on the coordinate plane? We write them as x, y. Now those coordinates written as x, y means you have an x coordinate and you have a y coordinate. So let's look at some definitions for those. So first we'll look at the x coordinate. It's the horizontal value in a pair of coordinates. It's the left and right movement. It's our first value. So you can add that as well. Okay, so it's the first value in your ordered pair. It's the x. It's how you move horizontally, left and right. Now the y coordinate is the vertical value. It's the up and down movement in the pair of coordinates. And this is the second value. So our x is the first value, y is the second value. One very important coordinate that you do need to know about is called the origin. The origin is where the x-axis and the y-axis meet. So the x-axis and the y-axis meet at 0, 0. It's basically the center of the coordinate plane. So if we look back at our coordinate plane here, this point right here, 0, 0, is the origin. It's the beginning. It's where you start. When you graph points, you always start at the origin. That's the beginning. It's where everything begins. Just like if you think of anything, a story, when you have the story's origin or the character's origin, it's the beginning. Where did they start? You hear that a lot with superhero movies. the origin of the character is how the character began. Okay, origin in any other vocabulary, it's the beginning of something, the start. Same thing with plotting points. The origin is where you begin plotting or graphing points. Okay, last piece of vocabulary, the quadrants. So the coordinate plane is divided into 4 quadrants. And you'll see them labeled, have little boxes on your coordinate plane. And we starts in the upper right-hand corner. And this is quadrant number 1. And it actually goes in counterclockwise order. So to the left is quadrant 2. Let me make that look a little nicer. Quadrant 3. And quadrant 4. And you may see the quadrants written as numbers. You may see Roman numerals. So you might see like this. And then we have 4. Okay, so again, they may be written as Roman numerals. They may be written as numbers. So you definitely should know both. But the most important thing is knowing that the quadrants work in counterclockwise order. Because there will be times where you need to know what quadrant a point is in. And you can use the counterclockwise for your order. Okay, now let's practice plotting some points. Our first point will be A, and my coordinates are 3, 6. Remember, the first coordinate is my X, the second is my Y. The X is my left and right movement, the Y is up and down. So we start at the origin. I don't plot the point, I just put my pencil at the origin at 0, 0. And my first coordinate is 3, that's my X coordinate. So I want to move to the right 3 because it's positive 3. So if the number's positive, I move to the right, negative, move to the left. So I start at the origin and I move to the right 3. I don't plot anything. I just hover, my pencil. And then my Y coordinate is 6. So I go up 6. And I plot my point. So it's to the right 3, up 6. And I'm going to label the point A. Anytime you have multiple points being plotted on a coordinate plane, having some sort of label so that you can tell what point is what is always helpful. And then you avoid having to draw tons of coordinate planes. You can put multiple points on one. Okay, next up is B. So for B, I'm going to start at the origin. And from the origin, because I have -2 as my X coordinate, it's a negative, which means I'm going to go to the left 2 places, because that's a negative direction. My Y coordinate is 1, so I would go up 1. So I start at the origin, I move to the left 2, up 1, and plot my point. So again, I don't mark anything on the way. I don't start from my other point. I start at the origin, and I move to the left 2 places, and then up 1 place. And I'll label that B. Okay, next up is C. My X coordinate is -4, so I'll be moving to the left 4. My y-coordinate is -2. That's my up and down movement. Because it's negative, that means I'll go down 2. Go in the negative direction. So start at the origin, down 4, to the right 2. Label it C. And finally, my last point D, 3, -1. So that means my x-coordinate is 3, so I go to the right 3 because it's positive. My y-coordinate is -1, so I go down 1. Start at the origin, go to the right 3, down 1, and that's D. Now if I wanted you to determine what quadrant these points were in, you start in the upper right corner, go counterclockwise. So A would be quadrant what? Quadrant 1, right? This is quadrant 1, quadrant 2, quadrant 3, and quadrant 4. So B is in quadrant 2, C and D are both in quadrant 4. Okay, now we're going to work in the opposite direction. You have the points. Now you tell me what the coordinates are. Okay, so we're looking at E first, which we have right here. So we start at the origin, and I'm going to determine my direction. So it's like you're giving somebody directions to get from the origin to E. How would you tell them to go? Now the x-coordinate is our left-right movement. The y-coordinate is the up-down movement. So you just replace those letters with the number of spaces in which direction. So if I start at the origin, to get to E, well, if I move left and right, I would have to move to the left 2 places. So my x-coordinate is -2. Then I move up 1 place, so it's +1. Remember, if you move to the left, it's negative, the right is positive. Down is negative, up is positive. So again, we're just giving directions. It's like you're telling someone how to get to your house. Go 2 streets to the left, 1 street up, like you're looking at a map. So for F, okay, so again, we're just looking at a map. Here's where we start. Start at this origin. How am I going to get from the origin to F? I have to move left and right first because that's my x-coordinate. So I would go to the left, how many places? Remember, you count on the lines, you don't count the space. So I would go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to the left, and 1, 2, 3 down to get from the origin to F. So since I moved 5 to the left, that makes my x-coordinate -5. Down 3 means my y-coordinate is -3. Now you don't have to write notes like I did, but you may, definitely use your pencil to count your places. But don't feel like you have to draw notation when you're finding the points. So for G, start at the origin, and we move left to right first. So our x-coordinate, to get to G, I would have to move 2 to the right. So that makes my x-coordinate 2. And then I go up 1, 2, 3, 4. So my ordered pair would be 2, 4. And finally, H. Start again at the origin. We want to get ourselves to H, we have to move left and right first. So we'll do this without marking anything. We'll go to the right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then down 1, 2. So 5, -2 would be our ordered pair for H. And that's it.